Hello and welcome to part 2 of our in-depth look at massive modulation. This is Dan from EDM Academy, and in part 2, we're going to take a look at LFOs and the additional modulation options available in massive. LFOs are assigned just like envelopes, but keep in mind the high and low points of the waves and what ends of your assigned modulation lines they correspond to. LFOs come with the 4 standard waveforms, as well as a variety of unique presets available. The crossfade slider allows you to blend 2 waveforms together or to switch between them on the fly. The rate knob controls how quickly your LFO oscillates. If you select the sync option, the LFO will sync to your song's tempo. In this mode, the rate knob turns into a beat sync selection tool. The bottom number corresponds to how many times your LFO repeats per number of bars specified in the top number. For example, in a 1/4 setting, the LFO will repeat 4 times over 1 bar. In a 2/1 setting, the waveform will take 2 entire bars for 1 cycle. Selecting the position setting will sync the first cycle of your LFO to the first beat of a bar in your sequencer. The restart option causes the LFO to restart for every new note played. The amp knob works as a dry-wet knob for the LFO. Besides curve presets, Massive offers entire preset LFOs. As with envelopes, user-created LFOs can also be saved. As seen in other pages, an internal envelope is available. With the mono option enabled, your LFO will be restricted to 1 instance of modulation at a time. The additional modulation modes are activated in the drop-down menu at the top right of any LFO page. First, let's take a look at the Performer. The Performer is a step-based modulation sequencer that uses arrangeable preset modulation curves. The rate knob works the same as it does with the LFO. However, in this mode, it is preferable to work in sync mode. The Curve Select button allows you to select a variety of curves and arrange them in a preferable order. Simply click on a curve and then click on the steps you wish to assign that curve to. You can then control how tall the modulation curve is by clicking on the curve and dragging upwards or downwards. The loop bar allows you to select the length your modulation sequence reads before repeating. You can also change the start point of the loop. The amp mod slider acts as a wet-dry parameter similar to the amp knob on the LFO page. You can assign individual steps to be affected by this feature by clicking on the respective buttons underneath each step. The Random button will randomize values for the parameters inside of the Performer. You can choose to affect specific sections or to randomize all parameters at once. Like the LFO page, the Performer also features a crossfading slider. Next, let's take a look at the Stepper. The Stepper is also a step-based modulation sequencer, but instead of using curves to modulate, it uses sliders set to editable values in each step. The value sliders control the point at which your modulated parameter is along the set modulation depth. You'll notice that the values range from 0 to 12 instead of 0 to 10. This is for ease of use when using the stepper to control an oscillator's pitch, since there are 12 notes in an octave. With Snap to Grid turned on, each slider will snap to a whole number without decimals for precise step values. The Glide Mod slider applies gradual transitioning between steps. The higher the slider, the slower the transition. To assign steps to use this feature, click on the respective buttons underneath the target steps. And that's it for Massive Modulation. For more in-depth videos and tutorials, check out edmacademy.net.